Hey y'all, this is Steve, and we're going to be doing some videos in the near future about brewing all grain with RIMS systems, and so I just wanted to give you a little heads up, a little introduction on what a RIMS system is, how it works, and what you can expect to do out of it. So basically, this is it's set up as a 3-tier system, of course. Hot liquor tank at the top, mash ladder ton over here on the left-hand side, the boil kettle down below. It doesn't really need to be 3-tier. I actually use it 3-tier just for space utilization, in the garage here, because basically I want to park cars and shit in here too. So, we basically have 3 pumps on each. 3 pumps, and there's really no need for gravity in this particular case. But like I said, just to get everything sort of vertical so we can save space. So I'll give you a little brief overview of how it works here. Like I said, this is the hot liquor tank. At the start of a brew batch here, a 10-gallon, we basically fill this vessel all the way to the top, 15.5 pretty much gallons of water, and then we have a heating element inside of here that can basically take it from room temperature all the way up to strike temperature. It's a little bit slow on 120 volts, so I will typically connect 220 up to it and use a manual controller just to get it up to close temperature, and then hook it back up to the automation here. But how it works is we have a heating element right here, and then we have this pump right here, and typically the valve's open, the pump's on, it pumps that out of here, and if you can, there's a thermocouple in this little fitting here, which basically just measures the temperature as it goes back up to the top. So as I'm heating this water, the PID controls a solid state relay inside of here, and can hold it to whatever the desired temperature is, plus or minus a degree. It's actually very accurate. So it just constantly recirculates out of the bottom, through the pump, by the thermocouple, back up to the top, constantly heating. When the thermocouple decides that the temperature is looking low, it will turn the heating element on and heat it up. This actually happens in a matter of 2, 3, 4 times a second. It's constantly just like modulating that heating element in an effort to very accurately control the temperature inside of here. So that's not really all that critical. Well, I mean, it is to a certain extent in the hot liquor tank, but the beauty of the PID really comes into play when you start doing the mash. And so once we hit striking temperature, we basically drain the desired amount of strike water down into the mash tun. We can basically just take that hose and stick it in there, drain it all down to, typically it's about 6.5 gallons, and then dough in with whatever sort of grain we're using, and then proceed with the mash. So as far as the mash tun goes, we basically have this 15.5 gallon vessel, and once we get all doughed in, we open up the valve, turn the pump on. The pump pumps into a RIMS tube here. I'm going to show you that in a few more minutes here, but basically it's a tube with a heating element and a thermocouple inside of it. And it pumps it through the tube, back up through here. We actually modulate the flow of our recirculation using this valve right here. and then pump it back into the top of the mash tun. We typically run with a cover on this, so it conserves heat. We don't want all this just going out the roof. So, and then, like I said, constantly all that wort is constantly being recirculated out the spout, through the pump, through the RIMS tube, by the thermocouple again, back up through the valve again, and it just does that. We do that for 60 minutes while we're mashing. At the end of that process, we basically take the first runnings and dump it into the boil kettle. And it's just the same sort of thing. We'll take this tube off and just stick it into the boil kettle, pump the wort out there slowly so we don't compact the grain bed and get a stuck sparge or anything, but it usually works very good. At that point, once we get all the first runnings out, we will usually have a mash out temperature set for the hot liquor tank, and then we'll pump water out of here slowly, continuous sparge on the fly, through this little sparge head here that we have hanging from the top shelf, and it just showers the grain bed with water. We draw it off at the same amount, the same rate that we're pumping it into the boil kettle, and obviously once we get done draining all the runnings out of the mash tun, we get the boil going. So the boil kettle is controlled by a manual heating system here. And I do that because, well, number one, I already had this thing. It controls 240 volts to the heating element, 5,500 watt heating element down there. And it gives me a lot of control once it gets to like the hot break area. We've got basically probably sometimes close to 13 gallons of wort in here, and it gets fairly close to the top. We don't want to, let it get over the top and make a big mess there. So we'll watch it like a hawk, and when it starts rising really rapidly, we can just basically reach over here and turn this knob all the way to 0. We'll let the hot break drop, and then once everything's under control, we can start putting heat to it again. And obviously, from your brewing experience, that will usually take 2, 3, 4 times until you finally get a stable boil, and then you can continue with your regular heat input and not have to worry about boil over. So at that point, we start throwing our hops in and stuff like that, and at the end of however long your boil is, sometimes it's 45, sometimes it's 60, sometimes it's 75 minutes, we kill the heat and energize this wort pump, and the wort pump basically pumps through this short piece of hose through this valve. Will basically modulate the flow again using this little valve, and can't see it right now, but I'll give you a closer look at it in a minute. It pumps up through a plate chiller here and then down into a fermenter. Pretty straightforward. Obviously we usually connect a hose to this input and output, so there's water flowing through this thing while we're chilling the wort, and we can basically go from 212 degrees in the hot liquor tank, fly it through there just one time, and 80 degrees, 75 degrees into the fermenter, pitching temp in just a single pass. 10 gallons takes typically 10 to 15 minutes, usually no more than 15 minutes. It goes pretty fast, and it's very, very efficient. So that's basically what we're looking at here. So give me a moment and I'll give you a closer look.